Some say he's a technical whiz. Some say he was born in Cornwall, while some say that he's on a journey. It's The Journey, and here's your host, David Hackett.
Hi everyone, another journey, and today we join in the founder of Adios and Venus. Adios is a mental well-being company that enables you to improve your clarity of thought and peace of mind through a regular habit of contemplation. So if you live your life largely looking outward and not inward, you may not create a deep connection with yourself. So if you make decisions that seem exciting in the short run, may not be right for you in the long run. A regular habit of contemplation on the Adios principles keeps your connections with yourself strong, and you can make the right decisions by using your Adioscope, a contemplation tool that is your personal microscope for life. Today we join the founder of this. We welcome Tarun to the journey.
Thank you, David. Thank you for having me. Good to see you.
No worries. Now, I said in the brief introduction before we started recording, everyone has a unique journey. Everyone starts somewhere. So where does your journey begin?
I think I was given to thinking alone during my school days itself. It was something that came naturally to me, not something that I learned from someone at home or outside. So that was a natural trait, I think, I was born with. Spent a lot of time alone just thinking. And that habit stayed with me. A few years later, I remember starting to write thoughts in a small notebook. And those used to be one thought a page. That's something that I very vividly remember. And then as things moved further, it intensified. And what was random thinking in the early age, because there was no guidance, and of course I was younger, became a little more structured. And over the past 15 years, it turned into more on the lines of self-reflection, understanding what am I saying, what am I doing, and what is the impact of that on my peace of mind. And that is what eventually turned into what we today call the Adios program.
And I like the name you chose for it, the Adios program. I know there's probably a meaning to it. So why was it called the Adios program?
Well, it's an acronym. It stands for a dialogue in objective silence. It does not mean goodbye. Because it's a dialogue that you have with yourself objectively in silence. The premise of Adios is, as you read out from the note when we began, if you largely focus outward as you live your life, you tend to become disconnected with yourself. That dialogue with yourself doesn't happen, which means that you start to lose your internal reference point. And because you're focused always on the outside, external noises can become your reference point. And you may start making your choices about your partner, choosing a partner, or conducting yourself in a relationship, or as a parent, or at work. Those choices could then be driven by external references, which may not turn out to be right all the time. And that is what leads to stress. So Adios is essentially a dialogue that you have with yourself on a regular basis, objectively, because it must be an unbiased dialogue. It can't be a subjective dialogue. That's how the name comes about.
And I know some people often don't think objectively. They like to think beyond the objective and, keeping it neutral as possible. Decisions have to be made. Now, if you make the wrong choice, and you probably agree to this, it can be detrimental later on or immediately. This is about, I assume, keeping it where it doesn't affect you. It keeps you on the level path, I suppose.
That's correct. So, what tends to happen is if you are not focused on the inward, while you might be aiming for a peaceful life, your day-to-day decisions might actually be driven by excitement or instant satisfaction or imitation, which may not necessarily be aligned to your overall long-term objective. So what we do in the Adios system is we start with defining the objective as a fulfilling, purposeful, and a peaceful life. Peaceful being the driving word, not happy, peaceful, because happy can be tricky sometimes. Peaceful is what you really want to be. And your choices that you make, as you mentioned, if they are not aligned with being peaceful, then that won't happen on its own. You need to make those choices consciously. And to be able to make the right choices and say no to the wrong choices, you need that deep connection with yourself. Otherwise, you tend to get carried away.
Yeah. And I know from past mistakes I've made in my life, I've always gone off that beaten track because I haven't thought like the immediate, and I haven't thought inwards as well as outwards. I've always thought go, 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 and I end up regret making that go, go scenario because it jumps back at you. It's like a rebound from a car crash or an accident. It hits you and you got to bounce back to, because it hits you so hard.
Yeah, and that's exactly we all do. That's what I've done in my earlier years, because if you look at it, life does not really come with a peace of mind manual. It is genuinely hard. You're navigating your way. So many external influences are impinging on you. You're trying to please others. You're trying to beat the peer pressure. You're basically confused. And to top it all, you have your own excitements, your own emotions, your own insecurities. So it's genuinely hard. So we all go through those things. The key is, if you can find a system that can help you navigate it much more easily and in a systematic manner, then it becomes easier. Otherwise, think about it. Small things like you have to choose a partner. If you only choose them on the basis of physical characteristics, which is very instinctive, it's very natural, but that is not what's going to decide whether you both will have a meaningful relationship. But because you haven't thought through it, you may choose somebody only on the basis of superficial elements. And then you make a mistake. Another example, something happens and you get angry. That anger definitely provides a sense of short-term satisfaction. Otherwise, you wouldn't do it. But it is not aligned with your long-term peace. Now, if you have never asked the question, what makes me peaceful and what makes me more restless, you would never realize that that anger is actually not good for you. Forget about it not being good for the other person. In Adios, we focus on whatever you say, whatever you do, does that make me peaceful or does that make me restless? So we all make those mistakes. The goal is, if you have this system now, and if you can reflect on it, hopefully we can correct them sooner and not make newer mistakes. That's the goal.
And I do like that. It's about avoiding those mistakes before it occurs. And, it makes a better person if you know by your mistakes as well.
Yeah, so it helps because once you are aware of things like, I said this, did that make me more restless? And once you have seen it, you cannot unsee it. You may make the same mistake again because of a habit, but you will see it again. And the hope is eventually you might decide to change if you want to change.
Yeah. So it goes it says about a regular habit of contemplation on the Adios principle is keeping your connection with yourself strong and using your Adioscope, which is a contemplation tool that is your personal microscope for life. I assume that's where you actually look at yourself closely and address those issues, for example, you talk about, and it helps you go into detail.
So the Adioscope is a contemplation tool that we have created on our platform, on the app. What you basically do is you write a real life situation or question that you want to analyze or you want to find an answer to. For instance, a question could be, should I move from LA to San Francisco? Or should I be in a relationship with this person? Or should I quit my job? Or should I start my own business? Real questions. You start with writing a question or a situation in the Adioscope. And just like a microscope has lenses, the Adioscope also has lenses. In this case, the lenses of the Adioscope are the Adios principles that you learn in the program. So you start with a question and then take that question through each principle and analyze it using each principle with the objective of, is this getting me closer to clarity? Do I now know what to do in this situation? You go one after the other, one principle after the other. Some principles may not be relevant to your question because every principle doesn't necessarily apply to every situation. But it's a systematic, step-by-step process to get to clarity of thought, but such clarity that makes you more peaceful. That's the underlying filter in the entire Adios system. Does it make me peaceful? So that's how the Adioscope works.
And it's a good way of looking at it because, like you said, and I've always used this, when describing things, you are like one big fruit, or as many people say, onion, and you peel back those layers to see the real you. So this is a very similar situation where you peel back those layers.
Very well said. That's exactly what happens in the Adioscope because you are peeling those layers using the principles. That's exactly what you're doing. You're right.
So we go into Venus, and it says here in the notes I got, Venus enables you to find a meaningful relationship by finding yourself first. The Venus approach is that a meaningful relationship does not start with finding the right person. It starts with finding yourself. It starts with becoming the right person. And then obviously it's got the 3-step process, which I'll let you explain.
So Venus is essentially Adios for meaningful dating. That's what it is. What we are saying is the same thing. If you don't start with yourself, if you don't date yourself first, if you're not clear about who you are, what you want, and who you want it with, what will make you more peaceful, what will make you more restless, then chances are that you will select a wrong partner. Again, on the basis of some superficial short-term elements, which you may then realize that is not what you were looking for. But the problem is, if you are still not connected with yourself, you may again select a wrong partner. That's the problem. So the Venus 3-step process is find yourself, find a friend, find a partner, in that order. You start with finding yourself by going through the program, learning the principles, looking inward. Then, when you meet somebody, ask yourself, is there a fundamental connection that I feel in terms of my values? Can I have a meaningful conversation? Or is it just some short-term excitement that I experience right now? Basically, try to find a friend in that person. And the third step is, if you have found yourself and if you've also found a friend in that person, then you ask yourself, can this person also be my partner? Every friend need not be qualified to be a partner, but go in that order. What tends to happen if you're not connected with yourself is you find a partner first, step one. Now that you found a partner, in a few weeks you realize that I am unable to find a friend in this person. Why? Because you never found yourself. So let's put them in the right order. Start with finding yourself, then find a friend, and then find a partner. That's the Venus approach.
And it's a good way of looking at it, because it goes back to the identifying yourself. And in a sense, when you find that friend, that friend helps you. And when you're in a relationship, it helps completely, because you got that friend as well as a lover.
That's right. Yeah. And then your relationships can also be deeper and more meaningful, because they're coming from a sense of you knowing yourself and hence knowing your partner much better, rather than trying to get into a relationship for the only purpose of filling some short-term vacuum in your life. Because that tends to be transactional.
I agree with that. And what I want listeners or viewers to be aware of is finding yourself is the key, because it's not easy. We know that, you know that, I know that. And finding yourself does take time. It doesn't happen just like that, because people think, oh yeah, I take the top layer off, I found myself. It's not like that.
It isn't, but what I've tried to do in the program is I've made it systematic. If otherwise it would have taken you 5 years to go through the maze and to fall 100 times and still not know what direction to go to, this will get it done in 5 months. But you have to do the work. I cannot do it for you.
Yeah.
Because the approach of Adios is, if you train your inner counselor, you will never need to depend on an external one. That's what my goal is. I'm not a counselor. I cannot answer your questions. I cannot tell you what you should do in this situation, but I will train you to find that answer. And once you learn how to find that answer yourself, you experience true freedom, true liberty. Because then you walk into any situation and say, yes, the situation is unfamiliar. I don't know what the answer is, but I know how to find it. And that's real power.
Now, looking forward into how things are progressing, do you believe that people will get a better, stronger understanding, or is it a case of everyone's unique and everyone is going to take their time finding themselves?
Everyone is unique. Some people may not be in a phase of life where they resonate with this. So I would not say that Adios is for everyone in the world. Definitely not. But a majority of people can certainly benefit from it. No matter what their phase is. And the reason I say this is, even if you don't benefit from it completely, at least it'll sow a seed. You benefit 40% today, but 3 years later, when your phase of life changes, that seed is going to sprout. For some people, they could be at a phase of life where they say that I've tried meditation to be calm and peaceful. It is not working for me. I'm looking for something that should work. Well, you are in a very different phase of life. Then this will work for you a lot better because you're ready and you're looking. Whereas someone else could be in a phase of life where they're really having a good time, they don't really want to self-reflect. That's a phase of life. It's not wrong. It's just that they are in that phase of life. So they may not resonate with Adios too much today, but they might resonate 7 years later after having gone through a couple of experiences. So all in good time.
Yeah. And I always say that life is there to learn new things before actually hitting the right level, because it's about, and I know it sounds harsh in saying this, you got to sometimes make that mistake to get to the better you. Now, I've been there, so I can relate to it. I've made, like I said, several mistakes. I'm not proud of them, but I wouldn't be here now talking and interviewing you if I was still making those mistakes.
Sometimes you must experience the darkness before you can appreciate the light. So we all make mistakes. Many a time we tend to feel bad about them. I would say anyways that was a natural progression. There is no point feeling guilty. In fact, if you had not made those mistakes, you may not have reached this stage of frustration or wanting to get better or wanting to see something deeper. So it's a part of the journey. Our goal is to learn, move forward, because the beauty of life is it will always present to you circumstances that will challenge you, that will challenge your composure. There is no dearth of experiences. There is enough time to practice. But if you have the right system, then at least you can keep yourself focused. Even if you fall a couple of times, doesn't matter. But you know that I fell and I shouldn't have said this, I shouldn't have done this. Get back up on track and we practice again. Move forward.
So going into finding out about Adios and Venus and everything, you put in some websites, and these are useful, which will be in the description at post-edit. Can you tell us how to get in contact with you and how to get involved with Adios and Venus?
So the Adios website is www.adiosworld.com, ADIOSWORLD.com. Your journey on the Adios program actually starts with an assessment where you understand your current level of oneness with yourself. So we have defined a metric for mental well-being. Just like you have IQ for intelligence, we have defined OQ, which is oneness quotient. How one are you with yourself? What percent of the time do you make such choices that make you more peaceful? So you take that assessment and then you go into the app and you can start the program. There are also some guided contemplations on the app which are available for free. You don't need to buy the program. They give you a sense of our approach and what you will be learning inside. So the goal is, if you want to go through a systematic way of doing things, then you start the program. But otherwise, there are other things you can do in the app. For Venus, the website is loveisvenus.com. and it follows a similar approach. It also takes you into the Adios app because they both are essentially under the same umbrella brand. And the Venus program is separately listed inside the Adios app. And you go through the same process in the Venus program.
Yeah. So how can people get in contact with you direct if they have any questions?
You could write an email to me on tarun@adiosworld.com. That's the way to get in touch.
Okay. And lastly, is there anything you want to say to people to make them inspired, to make them feel there is hope at the end of a tunnel?
I would reiterate what I've said in different words. We are all trying to get through this maze, and the maze is not exactly easy. But clarity of thought and peace of mind are skills, just like playing a musical instrument or learning how to swim. Once you have the method, you don't have to be gifted to think clearly or to be peaceful. It's almost algorithmic. If you follow some steps and practice, you will see a huge difference in your clarity of thought and peace of mind. So give it a try, give it a go.
It has been a pleasure talking to you today about your journey, about Adios, about Venus, and let's hope the success helps many people for many years to come.
I hope so too, David. Thank you so much for having me. It was an honor.
Thank you.
Be part of the journey by sharing your journey. Email wisewords1983. Until next time, bye-bye from me. Follow us on Facebook, www.facebook.com/shareawiseword or two.